How good is that?
Super famous, no panic.
Okay.
Several years after.
I can't see that very well, so we'll look at the computer screen. But welcome everyone, and this is a bit of a roundup. That's a bit of an eclectic collection of bits and pieces I've pulled together. So hopefully there's something in it for you. But I'll start off with the Washington Roundup. And when you thought it was all fantasy, guess what? We have Mr. Trump's Space Force. Don't know how he managed to arrive at this decision, but he did. And now the Pentagon is rushing around to decide how to actually implement it.
But he's an expert on space, his head is full of it.
Sorry?
He's an expert on space, his head is full of it.
He's an expert in everything. Anyway, let's coming this summer to Indiegogo, which is a crowdfunding site apparently. So maybe he needs a few dollars to make this actually happen. But there's a couple of bit of a description here. He used the recent National Space Council meeting, which was I think last Monday, and he basically directed the Pentagon to establish a Space Force. At the beginning of the meeting, he said he was directing the Defence Department to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a Space Force as an independent sixth branch of the military. Pentagon officials have been advised that the President would be directing the creation of Space Force at the Council meeting, but were really caught a little bit unawares to this. Creating the Space Force would require an act of Congress, said Senator Bill Nelson, who, incidentally, he was one of the shuttle astronauts. He was, I don't know, he was an astronaut, but he was a passenger in one of the shuttle missions. But he's a Democrat from Florida who's quite outspoken with respect to space, and he basically opposed the move. A former astronaut, Mark Kelly, publicly dismissed the idea, and he basically said it was a dumb idea because the Air Force already do this. That's their job. What's next? We move submarines to the 7th branch and call it the Undersea Force. Interesting comment. But what it did do is it overshadowed what was Space Policy Directive-3, and that's really about space situational awareness and traffic management, trying to implement how they progress that forward, as it will be an ongoing issue over the coming years. So the process of implementing the plan will likely take a few years. It's the biggest shake-up in the military since 1947, when the Army Air Force was turned into the Air Force, and a couple of other little movements around there. And the Navy lost some of its, didn't actually lose its air wing in 47, but it lost a little bit of its power that it did have at the time. And there's a lot of bloodletting at the time, so this may be the same. The Pentagon was found really wanting. They haven't got any plans for it. But as the former Secretary of the Air Force, Deborah Lee, said, the Pentagon's now, they were opposed to it, but now have to implement it, and now they're stuck. If they want to keep their jobs, they've just got to do it. So anyway, that's the Space Force. What that would probably mean is probably more focus and probably more money to defence, unfortunately. So we've got the Air Force, which we did have the Air Force Space Command, or the US had the Air Force Space Command, which was a sub-group of the United States Air Force, but now we'll be moving to the independent branch called the US Space Force. And of course, ever since Trump made the announcement, we have a little bit of, we have the obligatory pictures here of him signing the act. But we start to get a few humorous takes on this, and you'll notice that Buzz is sitting in the background there, giving that look to Mr. Trump. There's another one. There you go, Death Star, Space Force. There he is again. Couldn't help it. Target acquired, Mr. President. Well, what's the target? CNN. Fake news. And there he goes, Buzz Lightning. Join up the Space Force. So that's the Space Force. Should create some interesting things for space. Moving on to commercial crew. I put this up last time, but I'm focusing on SpaceX, not so much Boeing this time, but August was the planned date to do the first crew demo without crew. So that's coming up pretty shortly. And that date, as far as I'm aware, may have shifted a little bit, but not much. So SpaceX is still trying to get that launch happening. I'll come to a few pictures in a minute. The December flight has actually moved, which is a crew flight to the space station, has actually moved to about February. But it may be that Boeing goes up first. In any case, we're getting really, really close to having Americans launch from America again. American crews from America. So, commercial crew. This is Dragon 2, or Crew Dragon, depending on who you talk to. This is what it looks like. Another sort of schematic. That's an early picture of it. And it will launch on a Falcon 9 from Pad 39 with the Dragon sitting on top. And this is the real McCoy. This is now in the vacuum chamber at NASA's Plum Brook Station, which is part of the new NASA's Weather Research Centre in Cleveland, Ohio, and it's currently undergoing vacuum testing. And that's scheduled to go to the Cape in about July. So next month, that should go to the Kennedy Space Centre, or Cape Canaveral, or wherever. Yes, actually, Kennedy Space Centre, for integration. And there it is. That's what it looks like when it finally attaches to the space station. If you know the current Dragons at the moment, they actually get grappled onto the space station and brought in for docking. This will actually have automated docking, much the same way as the CST-100 or Starliner from Boeing. They all dock automatically. Most of these new spacecraft are pretty well automated. Now we go to general SpaceX. A big milestone in last month. We had Bangabandoo 1 launched on the Falcon 9 Block 5. The Falcon 9 Block 5 is significant because it's the last iteration of the Falcon series of rockets, and it's the one that has to pretty much be stable in its design. It can't have any more design changes because that rocket will be used to launch many to space, and NASA insists that the Block 5 flies 7 times before they will certify it to fly astronauts. So between now and when they fly their first astronauts, which is February, they have to fly this thing 7 times. They should have no trouble doing it. This version, at the time we thought, was the full version of the Block 5, but it wasn't. There's been an issue inside the helium tanks inside that rocket that caused a 2016 explosion of the rocket when what was called the COP-V, their carbon fibre pressure tanks, basically they sit inside the rocket itself and are surrounded by cold liquid, oxygen or liquid hydrogen, whichever, and they exploded basically and caused some big issues. So NASA insisted before you put men on this thing, that's got to be redesigned. That particular version of the Block 5 didn't have that particular fix in it, therefore that launch did not count as one of the 7 for manned flight. However, everything else on here was significant, and the reason it is because it's meant to launch 10 times with absolutely no refurbishment. There might be very, very few items that get refurbished. That's pretty significant. The other thing is, with some refurbishment, can actually extend the life of that particular rocket booster significantly. I've heard anything up to 100 flights. I find that hard to believe, but that's what they're saying. And I'll just play this video and you'll hear what the Block 5, what all the design changes are referring to.
Block 5 refers to a series of upgrades that we've made to Falcon 9 as part of our ongoing effort to make spaceflight more like commercial travel.
Please explain.
This version of Falcon 9, you can see there's screen is designed for 10 or more flights with very limited refurbishment, but should be capable of additional flights with further testing and possible additional refurbishment. Some of the changes are actually very visible. Block 5 refers to a series of upgrades that we've made to Falcon 9 as part of our ongoing effort to make spaceflight more like...
Is that as loud as it goes?
That's okay, we can hear it.
This version of
Ashley, do you know if that's as loud as it goes?
Yeah.
That's it?
Block 5 refers to a series of upgrades that we've made to Falcon 9 as part of our ongoing effort to make spaceflight more like commercial air travel today.
Now we can't hear it.
Version of Falcon 9, you can see it's designed for 10 or more flights with
Now I can't hear it.
That's all right.
additional flights with further testing and possible additional refurbishment. Some of the changes are actually very visible on this rocket.
Sorry guys, I'm going to start it
Now I can't
again.
hear it.
Block 5 refers to a series of upgrades that we've made to Falcon 9 as part of our ongoing effort to make spaceflight more like commercial air travel today. This version of Falcon 9, you can see it's designed for 10 or more flights with very limited refurbishment, but should be capable of additional flights with further testing and possible additional refurbishment. Some of the changes are actually very visible in this rocket, most notably the inner stage, this raceway cover down here, and the landing legs. All of these parts used to be white, but now they're black, which is the natural color of our improved thermal protection material, which doesn't require painting like the cork that we previously used. It's highly flame resistant and also holds up better to the elements. In particular, it's hydrophobic, meaning that it repels water. In addition to these changes, we've also made changes to the 9 Merlin 1D engines at the base of the Falcon 9 rocket right down here. The thrust of these Merlin 1D engines has increased from 176,000 pound force to 190,000 pound force at sea level, which represents approximately an 8% thrust increase. We've also changed the primary thrust structure that houses the engines, which we call the octaweb down here, from a welded aluminum structure to a bolted structure. This greatly reduces the manufacturing and inspection burden and increases reliability and shortens the lead time towards production. Additional improvements have been made to the landing legs to support rapid post-landing vehicle recovery, and we've also upgraded the operational capability of components across the board. The ultimate goal of all these improvements is to be capable of relaunching a flown booster within 24 hours with minimal refurbishment. That doesn't mean that we want to fly a rocket once per day, but it means that we could if we needed to. Block 5 refers to a series of upgrades.
Okay, so that was quite significant. I mean, you probably didn't hear every bit of it, but quite a significant amount of design changes. Again, a lot of it to do with compliance with some of NASA's requirements. For example, he didn't talk about that the engine had some turbo pump blades redesigned because there was some fatigue cracking found in some of the earlier flights of the Falcon. So it's obviously designed for great reusability and resilience. Moving on, there it is launching. That was the satellite itself. It was the first satellite for Bangladesh. And it landed on, what was it? Which one was it? I think it was, Of Course I Still Love You. That was the one that landed on. And here it is coming back. And apparently the condition was quite good. There's the titanium fins down. They don't use the aluminium ones anymore because they seem to melt on re-entry. These ones are quite robust. This is the rocket launch. So this is a really powerful booster now. So it's done a great job in terms of iterative design and implementation. All right, and you can see here a bit of a promo. You can put your man dragon, your cargo dragon, payload, and of course you can even put a dream chaser on there if you want. And what's interesting is that we're almost out of the block 4s. We're now going into the block 5. So from here on, other than the launch abort test, which will happen sometime in the next few months, most of the new rockets from SpaceX will be block 5s, and the next 2 are going to be launched mid-July. We have Iridium and we have Telstar going up within hours of each other from each side of America.
Angelo, is there a discussion going on to launch the Dream Chaser from, or is that just somebody's folly?
That's just someone's, marketing liberty, I guess.
Because I can't imagine Musk would fly anybody else's manned spacecraft.
If you buy the rocket, I suspect you might. So it depends. But here is CRS-15 is about to go up in the next few days. They had a successful test firing the other day, and this booster has had a 2-month turnaround, and this is a block 4. Quite incredible, really, because if you remember, test was launched in April. Well, this is the same booster that they're using. 2-month turnaround, not bad. Some other fun and games which SpaceX likes to play with. Here's the parafoil, bringing back what is worth $3 million worth of fairing there. They've been experimenting with recovery of the fairings. They can save themselves $6 million if they recover and reuse the fairings. They have decided that the parafoil, they can guide it, it's steerable, and it guides itself to a ship. That's Mr. Stephen, that's called that ship, and it's got a big net on it. And the idea is they're going to catch it. And interestingly enough, they've decided to make that net, they said 4 times bigger. I suspect it's 4 times bigger in area. But you can see that they are getting close. There it is, coming in. Pretty cute. One thing SpaceX I credit them for is they're persistent. Sounds like a really crazy idea, but they stick to it until they figure that they can either do it or they can't. There's Mr. Stephen there. The other thing they're going to recover, potentially, and Musk hasn't abandoned this, is the second stage, the upper stage. He talked about it on Twitter in terms of he's going to recover it with balloons, whatever that means. So most people think it's an aero brake type system like this, but anybody's guess. It's just something someone's fished up. I don't know how real it would be. Probably not. But he still hasn't dropped that idea. The other thing that's happening at SpaceX is he's acquired more real estate at the Cape. And he's going to build, I'll go back, he's going to build another facility there, not far from the information centre, if anyone knows where the area, and not very far from Blue Origin. I'll show you this in a minute. He's also going to build a fantastic looking control tower. I'm not sure where that goes. Mike, do you remember where he's going to put that?
I think it's on one of the maps that you've got.
Yeah, right. And here it is. He's currently got Launch Complex 39A, which was the old historical launch pad for all the Apollos. He's also got Launch Complex 40. He's also got landing zone 1 and 2, and the potential of the third one is there as well. And this is the operations area. Not quite sure where he's going to put his control tower. The shuttle landing strip is there, by the way. Now the information centre, just to give you a perspective, is there. And this picture doesn't show it, but I'll show it, you'll see in the next picture. There's that area again. This area is blown up. there's the visitor centre, and there's Blue Origin right there. So they're within spitting distance of each other. And this is the kind of layout of the new facility. The state of Florida, I forgot what their organisation is called, the Space something or other, has actually given them some money to do this, as well as Blue Origin. So to keep the business in Florida, the government puts in a little bit of money, but it's insignificant compared to the cost of actually doing some of this work. And this is the kind of aspiration. There's Dragon, Crew Dragon 2, and there's some other various bits and pieces. There's the X-37 space shuttle, and we've got, of course, the BFS. There it is in comparison. That's the Orion capsule. That is, I don't know.
It's a Dragon without the trunk.
Is it?
It's a
That's Dragon. It could be. It is. Yeah, it's a
fin.
And that's the BFS cargo version, and that's the people transporter. Of course, it's a space shuttle, so it's a huge thing if they actually do it. There it is. I like some of these cutaways. Have a look at the size of this thing. This all seems like a bit of a fairy tale, but the reality is he's building it. They're actually building this thing. Not sure where, because they bought a site, if you remember, in LA, near the docks, but they have to build a factory there first. I think that's the factory that mass produces it. But in order to do their testing, which they're looking at doing sometime next year, they'll have to be building this somewhere else. There it is again. Pretty amazing machine if they get it going. Now we'll go to his direct competitor, Jeff Bezos. He's the Mr. Amazon. He's got a lot of money. He goes every year and pulls out $1 billion check out of his, makes out $1 billion check and gives it to Blue Origin to fund his space enterprise. He's got this great factory up at the Kennedy Space Centre. Len has seen it. Big, huge. He's building big rockets there now. Oh, this is Launch Complex 36. I showed this last month, but there's a lot going on. He's building this to launch his nuclear rocket. This thing is big, and the engines are well into development, called the BE4s. They're methanol/liquid oxygen burning engines, very efficient. We should be seeing this fly 2020. There's the BE4 engine. And of course he's got another arm which is tailored to tourism or space tourists. This is the new Shepherd. The idea here is that for a small fee, possibly in the $200,000 range, plus you can buy a ticket, you can sit in there and it'll fly you to 360,000 feet. That's past what's called the Kármán line, is it? Which means that you're officially in space. You have a 3-minute weightless time, and no doubt it'd be fantastic. And then this comes back down on parachutes, this thing lands itself. This is the 8th launch of this particular version of this New Shepard rocket. There it is. And here it is landing. Pretty amazing.
The interesting thing about him is, though, that he's yet to do anything that's going to result in generating any money. He hasn't been able to charge for anything, where even Musk, was flying satellites in 2013 to pay customers. So, he's got a big checkbook.
He's got a really big checkbook. I mean, recently he was announced the richest man in the world, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's
got to get to a point, from a business point of view, he has to at some point.
He is, but he's the guy that's slowly. Elon Musk almost went broke in the early 2000s. This guy has always had a checkbook with plenty of money, and he's obviously in it for the long haul. Once he gets his rockets flying proven, I'm sure he'll generate money out of it. He's actually, whilst Musk's objective is Mars, this guy's objective is to, help with the move to the moon. So his idea is a simple one. Let's put all heavy industry off the planet and keep this as a sanctuary. That's his objective. Don't know how he does that, but pretty noble objective. Elon Musk, his idea is let's colonise Mars because something sooner or later catastrophic will happen to the Earth, which means we've got a second home that continues the species, if you like. So they all have different objectives, but ultimately they will charge and they will make money out of this. So here it is landing. One of the interesting things about this, and you'll see it, I'm going to play a video on it, you'll see that this can hover. Falcons have a bit of a problem. They don't throttle quite to the extent that the Blue Origin rockets do. So what happens is the Blue Origin rockets can actually hover and just keep themselves hovering above the ground and then slowly touch down. The Falcons, on the other hand, they have to basically come in at an incredible rate, fire their engines, they've got to time it perfectly to make the landing. They don't have that ability of throttling the Merlin engines like the B3s and certainly the B4s. Not sure about the Raptor, which is a new rocket engine that SpaceX is building, but that's the reason you'll see this thing on. And here we have launch.
4, command at start, 2, 1.
West Texas. Keep your eye on this thing here.
Watch your separation gain speed towards our maximum apogee altitude of 350,000 feet today. So I'm hearing from the control room that might have actually hit our goal of 350,000 feet, but we will confirm that.
That's the booster coming down, and you saw
There go
the
the track brakes. We're the sonic boom down here.
There goes the air brakes.
And would you like to confirm?
How long it fly?
Beautiful landing. All right. It's not over though. All eyes are on the captain.
I think this will have something like about 4 or 5 people.
There go the 3 drones.
Got huge windows. So when you get to fly,
And there go the
it's pretty
mains.
spectacular.
500 feet. And touchdown. Beautiful soft landing for our crew capsule. What a beautiful mission down here in West Texas. Woo!
4.
Okay. That they will fly test cruise probably this year sometime. Next year they'll start selling tickets, so save money. This is another perspective, but this is a good one too.
6, 5, 4, command at start, 2, 1. Engine is running. Entry boost up. Shepherd is clear power. 10,000 2,000 feet. CC detect separation. CC action, 351,000 feet. Gear deployed. 20. PM touchdown. CC touchdown. CC auto safety started.
So they're going neck and neck in competition with Virgin Galactic. I'll come to them shortly. Now, Rocket Lab, I thought that tonight we might have a video of the launch from New Zealand, but it's been delayed till tomorrow, weather permitting. They had a problem the other day with a tracking station somewhere, and they went and fixed it, but that's the Electron rocket. There it is. What they call the Rutherford engines, I think. And they launched from probably one of the windiest parts of New Zealand, I suspect, just off the Pacific Ocean. And there it was the other day, standing there against the stars, and you'll notice the different colours are really frosting on the side of the carbon fibre tanks. So with a bit of luck, in the next few days we'll see that go from New Zealand, and it'll be the first operational flight of that particular rocket. So it'll be fantastic to see. So close to home too. Now, like I said, Virgin Galactic is the next competitor to Blue Origin to take people into space for basically joyrides, for want of a better word. This has been in development for some time. They did have an accident a while back, and they had to recover from that, but they've been doing drop tests, power drop tests, and they're just about ready to start flying test crews in this, passengers, I should say. So it depends on who does it first, whether it'll be Jeff Bezos Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic. And this is the power test that was recently flown.
Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to the next test flight of Unity. A little bit about today's flight. Obviously the flight last month was a great step forward for the program. To recap on crew assignments, we have Dave Mackay as pilot in command on Spaceship 2, Mark Borges-Hookie in the right-hand seat. On White Hat 2, we have CJ Sturko, Nicole Pacelli, and flight test engineer Colin Bennett.
Sounds Australian, doesn't it?
Yes.
Exactly. That's the White Knight 2, the carrier aircraft. And of course, Virgin Galactic is integrated. Similar idea, takes you to 360,000 feet or thereabouts. You're in space and you can float around a cabin as this thing comes down. So you'll see passengers on there probably next year as well. It's the start of what they call space tourism.
The routine areas.
It's hard to tell from this picture, but the wings actually go up and weathercock to put drag onto the spacecraft, so it slows down coming in. And there is this landing, unpowered landing.
That's incredible. And once again, congratulations to
everybody. And it's just so wonderful that it's finally there. But let's hear from pilots.
That's Spaceport America, isn't it, Mike?
Thank you, Richard.
Where is this? In Mojave?
I think it's in Mojave.
Yeah, so that was an amazing flight. That exceeded expectations, and I want to thank everybody who put so much effort into it over the last few years.
Incidentally, Virgin Galactic has another organisation called Virgin Orbital. Is it Virgin Orbital?
Virgin Orbital.
Yeah, and they're about to launch, very much like the Pegasus launches off a Lockheed TriStar aircraft. Their version will actually launch off a 747, and it's underslung. The 747 will drop and launch small payloads into orbit. That's not far from actually being tested. I'd say within the next 4 or 5 months, maybe even sooner, you'll see that going. So that's the two things that Virgin are currently got in the play here. Okay. Now this is a little bit of retro, because to date, this is still, you know, probably. Now I've got to be right here, because the M1 booster, I got the feeling, which is the Soviet M1 booster, might have been a little bit more powerful than this. The trouble is it never actually got very far. It kind of blew up before it got very high in the air. Whilst this right here, my Saturn, flew all these missions. And of course, you know, from Apollo 4, Apollo 6 test flights, there's the Apollo 8 mission around the moon in December of '68. Then the Apollo 9, which was Earth orbit, test out the moon module. Then of course Apollo 10, orbit around the moon but not land. I'm sure they didn't put enough fuel in there so that who were the co-pilots?
And make sure that's evidence certain.
Okay. Had they had the fuel, do you reckon they would have gone for it?
They didn't expect enough fuel.
No.
They didn't have enough fuel in that. Apollo 11, of course, first of the landing, Apollo 12, Apollo 13, 14 Alan Shepard, 15 we had David Scott on the moon, then we had John Young and Ed Mitchell, and then we had Apollo 17, and of course George Scott. Ed Mitchell was 14. Amazing rocket.
Four of them are still alive. Only 4.
If you ever get to Kennedy Space Center, you'll see one of these things lying on the side. There's one in Houston as well, but it's a sight to be seen. It is unbelievable. And just remember, this is plus 50 years ago.
And there's one in Alabama.
Sorry?
Still. There's one in Huntsville.
Yeah, in Marshall, Space Policy. You need better sound. potential rockets that will come close to that in the next 5 years. One will be the Space Launch System, which will have its first flight probably in 2020. But it will not be of the same power as this one in its first iteration. And then there's, of course, the BFR from Musk. If that gets off the ground, it'll be in that kind of same
was so intense you couldn't see the instrument panel. I thought we'd had it during launch. I was hoping that Frank Borman didn't have his hand on the abort controller. He said he took his hand off and he'd rather die than make a false run.
1 minute after liftoff, the Saturn V is already supersonic.
Well, the Saturn V is still the most powerful machine that man has ever devised. 20 tons of fuel a second, 7.5 million pounds of thrust. I think we were all surprised at how strong that thing was. It had 2 or 3 iffy missions before ours, but it was a piece of cake. It just worked great. Unbelievable.
5 engines in the first stage blast the Saturn V to 7 times the speed of sound.
The second stage cut in. Bang.
At 40 miles high, it's still
On
accelerating.
your stage, you were throwing forward in the belts, then backward in the belts. And I thought I was being catapulted through the instrument panel.
The third stage fires twice. First, the boost into orbit. The second bird takes the crew of Apollo 8 where no men have ever been. Deep.
There you go. The mighty Saturn. Okay, a little bit about China. Because now they've turned out to be direct competitors with the United States. And they've got some interesting things happening. This is their moon architecture. This is the US Apollo architecture. Lunar orbit rendezvous. The Chinese propose to use a couple of rockets to achieve the result. Slightly different, but these will be the heaviest rockets that the Chinese can muster. I think it's the Long March 5. They did have a failure recently, but they're going to restart the launches of that particular rocket. So it'll be interesting to see how the Chinese go. They definitely announced earlier that they are going to the moon, and not long after, America decides that it's going to the moon as well. So a bit of competition is good. This is some of their architecture again. Lander, propulsion module, and of course the rocket. But this is what the Chinese are currently developing. Most of the spacefaring countries are developing their own new manned spacecraft. The Chinese have got this. The Russians have got the Federation spacecraft. And of course the Americans have got the Orion or deep space projects. Interesting news over the last couple of days. As you know, the Tiangong 1, the first Chinese space station, re-entered Earth's atmosphere in an uncontrolled way. It happened to end up in the Southeast Pacific, fortunately, which is a satellite graveyard, deliberately, but it landed there by luck. But apparently the Chinese are starting to deorbit that at the moment with the view of actually controlling its descent. So keep your eye out on that one. There's the Tiangong 1 in April this year. The other thing is we've now got, the Chinese have now got a relay satellite in lunar Lagrangian point L2.
And I think you mean
halo orbit, correct?
You mean the far side of the moon, not the dark side.
Oh, that's all okay. I have to correct that because it does actually get light.
All of the moon gets light.
Okay, so they've actually got that QKO, it's called, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Andrew, you know the proper pronunciation of it? QKO?
Spacecraft name.
Yeah, it's called QKO, that's how we pronounce it.
Channel 69.
Okay, anyway, in December, they'll be launching this thing, and this will land on the
Far side.
far side of the moon. The longitudinal side of the moon, and it will use that relay satellite to transmit its data. Then it will have a lunar rover. That is scheduled for December launch, so look out for that. But not to be outdone, they've got JD5, which is lunar sample return in 2019. So the Chinese are pretty aggressive in their space program at the moment.
The interesting thing about using a ComSat to relay from the far side of the moon is there are a couple of issues there. One of them, well, first of all, is the moon's mass comms. It's going to have to spend fuel to stay in a stable orbit. Also, it won't be able to stay over that position because the lunar, I shouldn't use the word geocentric, the selenocentric orbit is outside of the moon's gravity crater. It would actually start falling towards Earth. So you cannot have a ring of stationary satellites around the moon.
Why is she on stationary?
I'm just saying you will only get passes. Yeah, you'll only get passes.
So
they cannot have continuous coverage with a single satellite over the moon.
Can I make my point? There are 4 frozen lunar orbit when not affected by Moscow's, I don't remember numbers, but they discovered after Apollo missions. Plus, this satellite on L2 is not for collecting soil, it's a retranslate.
No, it's, yeah.
So they still figure it, they're not exactly copying Russian architecture, they're using 3 modules. One of them stay on orbit and the last one would arrive. So they're using like multiple pieces, but the truth about this architecture, they can replicate it for Mars mission. They simply need bigger modules to go to the Mars and land on the Mars and launch from the Mars. But fundamentally, it's still the same architecture.
One thing I have noticed in modern spaceflight is getting used to all these crazy orbits that they're coming out with. In the old days, it was pretty simple to understand. Now, these L2 halo orbits and whatever, even the mission, the first Orion mission, has a really weird orbit past the moon. So, pretty amazing stuff. And I'm just amazed by the computer models that actually do all the work to navigate these satellites into position. The other one, the Australia launch, huge aircraft that will fly sometime this year. It is the biggest aircraft in the world, and you'll see the comparison. The only thing that's got a longer wingspan, I think it's the Spruce Goose, sorry, it's longer. Spruce Goose, which I think is the green one. Anyway, it's big. This thing has probably weighs the most of any aircraft that's flying. Now I want to show, this is from the mate Dave over here. You might have seen it today, but some bloke went and produced a 3/4 scale Mercury redstone model rocket. World record with 10 to 8. This is the size of it. This is a model rocket, alright? This is not a real rocket.
It's bigger than what's his name?
And there it was being built. Building the capsule on top. It's wrapped in fiberglass. Here are the sections. Put them together. That's the back tail of the redstone. These are the guys that did it. They're erecting it on the day. And the model rocket. There you go, Dave. Is the challenge on?
No.
No. For those that don't know, Dave was involved with a one-to-one V2 rocket that was launched in Queensland a year ago, and that kind of held the record as listening, I suspect.
Still got one other record for the fattest one.
I won't know this one. There's a couple of videos on it.
He got a lot of support from his business because he worked with DeWalt and they let him use their machine shop, the CNC cut all the stuff, so they got a quite significant hand.
Mike, how much time have we got? Oh, I mean, I'm out of time here.
Yeah, how long does this story go?
This is a 4-minute. This is actually good. Margaret Hamilton was actually a programmer for the Apollo missions. That's the go. She worked on it. I mean, she basically, with the MIT people invented this stuff. It's a good.
They announced that they were looking for people to do programming to send man to the moon. And I just thought, wow, I've got to go there. I grew up in the Midwest, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Upper Peninsula. I just enjoyed school, but there's something about math that I just liked more than everything else. I liked deriving the answers because I didn't want to memorize. It was too much. I was lazy. When my husband was in law school, they wanted the law wives, my being one of them, to pour tea. And I said to my husband, no way am I pouring tea. As a Harvard law wife, if I go to Harvard Law School, fine, I'll do what the men do, but I'm not going to be put in that position. And he was very proud of me that I had taken that stand. They announced that they were looking for people to do programming to send man to the moon. I was the first programmer they hired. I came up with the term software engineering, and it was considered a joke. What? Software is engineering? Mostly men were working there, and they had somebody at home to take care of their kids. I had no choice. I'd bring my daughter, Lauren, into work nights and weekends, and she'd see me playing astronaut to test the software and doing the kinds of things the astronaut would do. So she wanted to do it too, so she played astronaut. And all of a sudden, everything came crashing on the simulator. And I realized that what she had done is that she selected the pre-launch program during flight. I said, oh my God, this is not good. We really need to put a protection in there because the astronaut really could do what she did by mistake. I tried to get it through MIT, NASA. No, they said, astronauts are trained never to make a mistake. There was an emergency. Everything happened that we thought would happen if they made the mistake. So then there was a decision, go, no go, land or don't land. Fortunately, the people at Mission Control trusted our software, and they said, go, go, go. The software and the hardware worked perfectly. The software was on the ground and on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Your example speaks of the American spirit of discovery that exists in every little girl and little boy who know that somehow to look beyond the heavens is to look deep within ourselves.
Being fearless, even when the experts say, no, it doesn't make sense. They didn't believe it. Nobody did. It was something that we were dreaming of happening, but it became real.
A lot of stories like that, a lot of unsung heroes. So, as time goes on, more of these keep coming out of the woodwork. Amazing. Some pictures that I like. I don't have the colour on the screen. This is Mars, of course. Can't get over the photos. I just put them in there because I like them.
Just Nevada.
Amazing. And I can't, there's only Andrew Rhino that can pronounce this comet's name, but this is part of the Rosetta photo library. What's that comet's name, Andrew? Oh, you can pronounce it too.
We've got a
Cherry-Ugo. That's the one. And that's, I love that picture that recently was released. And of course I like this one. That's it. Enjoy the ride. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelo. Okay, we normally have a bit of a break now, so we'll have about a 15-minute break. Talk to someone you don't know, say hello. If there's anyone new in the room and you'd like to be put on our mailing list, I've got a sheet here on that front desk there and a pen, so if you're interested in being on our mailing list to know about our forthcoming meetings or special events, then please feel free to put your name and email address on the chair. Thanks a lot. See you in about 15 minutes. Thanks.